Live from Los Angeles. Welcome back to Good Morning, LaLa. On today's modern world, it's very, very important that we have a perspective and have compassion and come from all different viewpoints. So Rhett is in the house. Rhett, yes. I want to introduce you correctly. How do I pronounce your last name? Lindsey?
It's Lindsey.
It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
You have the diverse perspective, which is super important in today's world. All the different viewpoints. So tell us a little bit about the platform.
Yeah, so the platform is a place where culture and content meets conversation. Mm-hmm. So I create a place for writers to be able to write unapologetically about certain topics or issues that they want to focus on, that they might be concerned about, whether it's social issues or lifestyle or parenting or fitness or health. Mm-hmm. Whatever you want to write about, you have a place where you can do that. Build your brand as a writer, and also for the community that's reading to engage in conversations.
I love it. So I have a perspective on all this.
Okay.
So on social media, we have a lot of viewpoints on politics and all this stuff, and I personally feel like if I can't actually do something about it, I don't feel like I should make anyone wrong or anything wrong. I feel like I'd be better off just focusing on what I can get done. But a platform where people can have a voice. How do they do that without making someone wrong?
So really, it's about being open to understanding. So having conversation, and for there to be change, you have to have understanding. So if you have someone that has two different perspectives, they have to voice it. And when they voice it, you might not agree with it, but for you to have to be sparked by the change, you have to hear where they're coming from. And that's where the dialogue can happen.
Rhett, when did you recognize a personal need for this kind of platform in your own life?
Very good. I recognized it. I came out officially about 5 years ago to my family, and growing up, I always felt secluded, insecure, like I was not able to live my authentic self and have my authentic voice. So as a writer, I've always been passionate about writing, and I wanted to create a place where people can be themselves. Because we all have different viewpoints, we all have different perspectives. There's nothing wrong with that. But being able to be your authentic self and be unapologetic about that, that's the key. And being able to listen and understand.
That's just fantastic. So how have you been able to embrace this authentic self? Has it mostly been through expressing how you feel to certain people, to people at large, or what have you discovered about embracing who you authentically are and sort of loving who you authentically are?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it starts by, and you hit it on earlier this morning about investment and value, and it starts with knowing your self-value. So without knowing your self-value, you won't be able to have the self-growth. You won't be able to have the self-worth. Mm-hmm. You need self-worth, and once you know your self-worth, then that can translate into being your self-wealth. So those key things, your self-value goes to your self-worth, goes to your self-wealth. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's been very positive in my life as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, because without having an identity of my own and standing by that, it will not reflect on my product. And for up-and-coming entrepreneurs, they'll be too fixated on trying to create something for other people and not for themselves. Mm-hmm. And it has to reflect who is behind the platform. Mm-hmm. So once you understand that, that's key.
So interesting. I think it's interesting with all the different perspectives in the world. How do people manage it? In one of my groups of communities that I developed, we have a kind of a rule that we go by that's called Feedback Fridays, and people give what they desire, what they need more support in, or what they'd like to see more of, what they'd like to create more, but they can never come from a complaining or from a standpoint of what's wrong. So how do you manage that at all on your platform?
I don't, because I want people to have the freedom to express themselves. So there are times where someone will comment something that might be their perspective, but it's a negative connotation behind it. Mm-hmm. But that's good. We need to see what's out there in the world. We can't shadow that. We can't blanket that. Mm-hmm. We need to see what people's viewpoints are to be able to spark the change. So to your question, I feel that because the platform is very expressive, I want people to be their authentic selves. Because if you're not, and you're being politically correct, you're not going to be able to be sparked by the change that might occur from someone else's viewpoints.
Interesting.
So, Rhett, what is your legacy that you're creating?
I want to create a legacy of authenticity. I want to build a platform where writers are able to be sparked, to have their own voice. There's a lot of platforms that are a place where articles can be written by writers and up-and-coming writers, but they're overshadowed by a big blanket of content and media. But for the diverse perspective, I really want to focus on diverse people, and diverse meaning from all backgrounds.
Do you have a favorite post or writer, somebody you could share?
Yeah, there was an article that was written titled please stop acting black. Please stop acting white. You're black, and the identity of that complex within the African American community. And so the reason why I wanted to write that is because I myself, as a biracial individual who has a mixture of African American blood, Caucasian blood, Native American blood, there is this stigma behind what it means to be black, what it means to be your authentic self as a black African American man. People might judge us and say that, you know, looking at us, that we're probably not the ideal image of the black man. What does that mean, though? You know, is my identity created based on my color or my personality?
It's a very prevalent challenge, right? It's really. I used to, of course, I struggled with that a lot. With an Ivy League school and all these things, and I would always joke and say, "Hey, let's hit the basketball court real quick. I'm gonna cross you," you know. And they would, but it's actually really common challenge that I think people from all different walks of life face, which is trying to be fully expressed and authentically themselves, but sort of working and living in a world where people like to compartmentalize.
Yes.
Yeah.
And why? Why is the need for that?
No need for it.
Thank you for creating the platform where people can live their authentic truths. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow.
You can find The Diverse Perspective at www.thediverseperspective.com. And you can follow myself at Rhett_Lindsey, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Stay tuned. We'll be back more
Thank
in one
you.
moment.